Marvel Comics has given us Spider-Man, the X-Men, and the Avengers. Characters that defined childhoods and shaped generations. But for every, with great power comes great responsibility. There are moments Marvel wishes you'd forget. Moments so poorly conceived, so tasteless, so fundamentally wrong that they became instant scandals. Incest between siblings, cannibalism on panel, and many more. These are Marvel moments that should have been censored, and every single one is burned into comic book history as a cautionary tale. 1. The Rape of Miss Marvel, Avengers number 200. Carol Danvers was one of Marvel's premier heroines. Former Air Force pilot, CIA agent, gained powers from a Kree explosion, became Ms. Marvel, joined the Avengers. She was strong, capable, and independent. A role model for female readers in an era when those were scarce. Then Avengers number 197, July 1980, happened. Carol discovered she was 3 months pregnant. Had no idea how. The pregnancy accelerated unnaturally. Avengers number 200, October 1980. By Jim Shooter, David Michelini, Bob Layton, and George Perez, she was in labor after only 3 days. The Avengers gathered. Thor's alter ego, Dr. Blake, delivered the baby. Carol gave birth to a boy who aged rapidly. Within hours, he was a full-grown man with a perfectly trimmed goatee. He called himself Marcus. Then came the explanation. The most horrific backstory Marvel ever published. Marcus was the son of Immortus, the time-traveling Avengers villain. Trapped in limbo, a dimension outside time, Marcus was completely alone after his father disappeared. He couldn't escape. Being part of limbo itself, his presence on Earth would destroy reality. So he devised a plan. He would kidnap a woman from Earth, impregnate her with his essence. She'd return to Earth and give birth. He'd be reborn through her, allowing him to exist on Earth as a newborn who could grow up normally. He needed an exceptionally strong woman to survive the process. Searched through time. Choose Carol Danvers for her combination of human and Kree physiology. Marcus abducted Carol while she flew to visit Scarlet Witch, took her from the Quinjet mid-flight, transported her to Limbo, then began courting her. He brought Shakespeare to recite sonnets, Beethoven to play piano. Marie Antoinette was to make clothes. Tried to woo Carol with culture and gifts. Wanted to win her affection naturally. It didn't work. Carol rejected him. So Marcus used his father's machines. In his own words from Avengers number 200. Finally, after relative weeks of such efforts, and admittedly, with a subtle boost from Immortus's machines, you became mine. He mind-controlled her, raped her, impregnated her, then erased her memory and returned her to Earth. The Avengers listened to this confession. Marcus admitted to kidnapping, mind control, and rape. Admitted Carol never consented. Admitted he manipulated her into compliance using alien technology. None of them objected. Worse, Carol, herself, still under the lingering effects of the mind control, decided she had feelings for Marcus, announced she was leaving Earth, going back to Limbo, to be with him. Iron Man expressed mild concern. What bothers me is that Ms. Marvel elected to return with Marcus to Limbo. I'm not sure if that was the right decision. That was it. Mild discomfort. No intervention. No protection. No rescue. Thor used his powers to send Carol and Marcus back to Limbo together. The Avengers waved goodbye, wished them well, treated it like a happy ending. Carol Danvers, one of Marvel's strongest heroes, left Earth to live with her rapist, her son, her abuser, and the Avengers celebrated it. The backlash was immediate. Carol A. Strickland wrote The Rape of Ms. Marvel essay shortly after publication, calling out exactly what the story portrayed. She received hate mail. Readers told her she needed to get laid for criticizing the issue. But over time, the consensus shifted. Even Jim Shooter, Marvel's editor-in-chief, who co-wrote the issue, later apologized. In a 2011 blog post, he wrote, "I agree with the consensus. It's heinous. I guess I signed off on this book. I regret it. I take full responsibility. I screwed up. My judgment failed. Or maybe I wasn't paying enough attention. Sorry, Avengers number 200 is a travesty." Chris Claremont later rescued the character in Avengers Annual number 10, 1981. Had Professor X restore Carol's memories. Had her confront the Avengers for their failure to recognize she'd been brainwashed. Gave Carol the agency to be furious at her violation. But the damage was done. Avengers number 200 stands as Marvel's single most offensive comic. A milestone issue that should have celebrated Carol instead portrayed rape as romance. Reduced a powerful female hero to a victim. Made her teammates complicit in her abuse. If that seems unforgivable, wait until you see what Marvel published in their Ultimate Universe. 2. Ultimates 3, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver Incest. The Ultimate Universe was supposed to be Marvel's fresh start. Modern retellings of classic characters. Accessible to new readers. Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis was brilliant. The Ultimates by Mark Miller was edgy but compelling. Then Jeff Loeb took over. Ultimates 3 number 1, February 2008, by Jeff Loeb and Joe Madureira opened with hints. Wanda Maximoff, Scarlet Witch, and Pietro Maximoff Quicksilver were twins, brother and sister. They seemed too close, too affectionate, too protective of each other. By issue number 2, Wolverine spelled it out, recounted walking in on them together, naked, in bed, having sex. The Ultimates reacted with shock. Captain America was horrified. Wasp looked disgusted, but they weren't as scandalized as they should have been. Wasp actually suggested Cap was being old-fashioned for finding sibling incest disturbing. The comic portrayed it as edgy, provocative, a twist that would get people talking. It worked. People talked about how disturbing it was, how unnecessary. It added nothing to either character except making them repulsive. Wanda and Pietro's relationship in mainstream Marvel had always been close. Protective siblings who'd endured trauma together. The Ultimate Universe took that bond and made it sexual for shock value. Ultimates 3 was universally panned. The incest subplot became the poster child for everything wrong with trying to be edgy. Brian Michael Bendis, who'd created the Ultimate Universe, later expressed regret about what happened to characters he'd carefully developed. When Marvel eventually ended the Ultimate Universe in 2015's Secret Wars, nobody mourned the ultimate version of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Some creative decisions can't be walked back. They just sit there, permanent stains on the publication history. While Ultimates 3 ruined 2 characters, our next moment destroyed Spider-Man's marriage in the most horrifying way imaginable. 3. Spider-Man. Reign, Mary Jane's. Radioactive Death. Spider-Man. Reign number 1 to 4. February to May 2007. By Carr Andrews was Marvel's attempt at a dark, mature Spider-Man story. Set in a dystopian future. Peter Parker retired. New York under authoritarian rule. Meant to be Marvel's answer to The Dark Knight Returns. The first issue opened with Peter visiting Mary Jane's grave. Haunted by her death. Tortured by guilt. The story slowly revealed what killed her. Mary Jane Watson Parker died from cancer. Specifically, cancer is caused by long-term exposure to radiation. Peter's radiation. The comic spelled it out clearly. Years of sexual intercourse with Peter exposed Mary Jane to the radioactive isotopes in his bodily fluids. The same radiation that gave Peter powers slowly poisoned his wife. She developed cancer, died painfully, all because she loved Spider-Man. Peter's guilt consumed him. He knew, had always known the risks. but Mary Jane insisted, said their love was worth it. So they stayed together, had a physical relationship, and it killed her. The story was praised for its art. Carr Andrews' painted pages were gorgeous. Dystopian New York looked haunting and beautiful. The plot about Peter reclaiming his heroism had merit, but readers couldn't get past the radioactive semen subplot. It reduced Mary Jane, one of comics' most beloved characters, to a victim of Peter's biology, made their marriage a slow-motion death sentence, implied that Spider-Man was literally toxic to be with. Critics pointed out the body horror implications. Mary Jane's dignified character deserved better than dying from contaminated bodily fluids. The subplot felt gratuitous, shock value disguised as mature storytelling. When Spider-Man Reign 2 was announced in 2024, giving the universe a happier ending, many fans hoped it would retcon Mary Jane's cause of death. The original explanation remains one of Spider-Man's most controversial moments. If Spider-Man Reign was controversial for how it killed Mary Jane, our next moment was controversial for who it claimed fathered her children. 4. Sins Past, Gwen Stacy and Norman Osborn. Gwen Stacy's death in The Amazing Spider-Man, number 121, June 1973, was comics' most famous tragedy. The Green Goblin threw her off a bridge. Spider-Man tried to save her, failed, held her corpse, blamed himself. For 30 years, that was Gwen's legacy. Tragic loss, pure victim, symbol of Peter's greatest failure. Then, J. Michael Straczynski wrote The Amazing Spider-Man, number 509 to 514, August to December 2004, the Sins Past storyline. Introduced two new characters, Gabriel and Sarah, twins, early 20s, hunting Spider-Man. Mid-story twist. They were Gwen Stacy's children, born in secret, raised in Europe, never knew their mother, now seeking revenge on Spider-Man for abandoning them. Peter was devastated. Gwen been pregnant? Had he had his children? Never told him. The twins believed Peter was their father. He wrestled with the implications. Final issue revelation. Norman. Osborn was their father, not Peter. Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, Spider-Man's worst enemy, a man in his 50s. Gwen Stacy, college student, early 20s, Peter's girlfriend. The timeline was laid out. While Peter and Gwen were dating, Norman seduced Gwen. She became pregnant, had twins, gave them to Norman to raise, then died without telling Peter any of it. The story explained Gwen's trip to Europe years earlier, claimed she gave birth there, returned to Peter with no one knowing. I intended to add complexity to Gwen's character, showing she had secrets. Fans revolted. This wasn't complexity. This was character assassination. Gwen Stacy, the sweet, innocent girl next door, secretly had an affair with her boyfriend's elderly archenemy, got pregnant, gave the babies to the man who would later kill her. It made no sense. Completely contradicted Gwen's established character, made Norman Osborn even more repulsive, violated the tragedy of The Amazing Spider-Man number 121 by adding a sordid backstory. Readers accused Marvel of ruining Gwen's memory for shock value. Sales dropped. The storyline became universally despised. Marvel eventually retconned it. The Amazing Spider-Man, number 894, June 2024, revealed Gabriel and Sarah weren't Gwen's biological children at all. Norman had lied about everything, created artificial children using Peter and Gwen's genetic material without consent. The entire Sins Past story was recontextualized as Norman's manipulation, but the damage lasted 20 years. 2 decades of Gwen Stacy's character being tainted by the implication that she'd slept with Norman Osborn, all because nobody said this storyline shouldn't happen. Sins Past tried to rewrite Spider-Man's history. Our next moment actually succeeded, and fans have never forgiven Marvel. 5. One More Day, The Devil's Deal. The Amazing Spider-Man. Number 544, January 2008, by J. Michael Straczynski and Joe Quesada, ended Spider-Man's marriage. Not through divorce, not through death. Through a literal deal with the devil. Context: Civil War happened. Spider-Man revealed his identity publicly. Aunt May was shot by a sniper, dying in hospital. Peter tried everything to save her. Every doctor, every hero. Nothing worked. Then Mephisto appeared, Marvel's literal devil. Offered a deal. He'd save Aunt May's life, erase Peter's public identity reveal, undo all the consequences of the Civil War, reset Spider-Man's life. The cost: Peter and Mary Jane's marriage, their love, their history together. All of it erased from existence. They'd never have married, never even been together. Peter said no immediately. Mary Jane pulled him aside, whispered something in his ear, something readers never heard, then told Mephisto they accepted. Reality rewrote itself. Aunt May woke up healthy. Nobody remembered Spider-Man's identity. Peter and Mary Jane were never married, barely even friends. Their entire relationship was reduced to dating in college. The final page showed what Mary Jane whispered: Peter, make this deal. Save her. She'd sacrificed their love to save his aunt's life. Readers hated it. Peter Parker, the eternal optimist who never gives up, made a deal with Satan. Traded his marriage, his happiness, because he couldn't handle Aunt May's death. The character defined by, with great power, comes great responsibility, chose the easy way out. Mary Jane was reduced to a sacrifice. Her agency was removed. Their love was erased because the editor wanted Peter to be single again. J. Michael Straczynski publicly stated he opposed the storyline, was overruled by editor-in-chief Joe Quesada, who wanted Spider-Man to be unmarried. Straczynski wrote it under protest. Fans organized protests, started petitions, demanded Marvel reverse it. The storyline became shorthand for editorial mandates ruining characters. Marvel never fully reversed it. Peter and Mary Jane eventually rekindled their relationship in some continuities, but the marriage stayed erased. One More Day permanently changed Spider-Man's history because one editor didn't like him being married. One More Day used the devil. Our next moment brought out the monster in a hero. 6. Ultimatum: The Blob Eats Wasp. The Ultimate Universe went dark. Ultimatum number 1 to 5, March to September 2009, by Jeff Loeb and David Finch, was supposed to be the universe's epic event. Magneto caused a massive flood. Millions died. Heroes fought back. Ultimatum number 2, May 2009, showed the Blob. Fred Dunn. Mutant with supermass and invulnerability. Usually portrayed as comedy relief. Gross, but harmless. Not an ultimatum. The issue showed Wasp, Janet Van Dyne, brilliant scientist and Avenger, fighting Blob. She flew at him, trying to stop him. He grabbed her, bit down. The panel showed Wasp's legs kicking, then going still. Next panel, Blob wiping his mouth. Said he always wondered what she tasted like. He'd eaten her, cannibalized the Wasp. On panel, graphically, Hank Pym found the body. What was left? Went berserk, grew to giant size, bit the Blob's head off, ate him in revenge. The sequence was gratuitous, unnecessary, shock violence for no narrative purpose. Wasp died to make Blob seem threatening, turned a comedy villain into a cannibal. Critics slammed it as torture porn, reducing female heroes to gruesome deaths. Ultimatum killed dozens of characters in horrific ways, but Wasp's death stood out as especially tasteless. The Ultimate Universe never recovered. Marvel rebooted it. Then it ended entirely. The Ultimatum accelerated the decision. Sometimes shocking violence isn't brave storytelling, it's just violence. While Ultimatum went too far, our next moment never even got published, but became infamous anyway. 7. X-Force/Spider-Man, Shatterstar's Censored Violence. X-Force number 16 and Spider-Man number 16, November 1992, featured a crossover. Rob Liefeld drawing X-Force, Todd McFarlane drawing Spider-Man, two superstar artists collaborating. The story involved Juggernaut and Black, Tom attacking. X-Force teamed with Spider-Man to stop them. Standard superhero fare, except that Liefeld drew one panel that Marvel couldn't publish. Shatterstar, X-Force member with two swords, fighting Juggernaut. Liefeld drew Shatterstar stabbing Juggernaut directly in the eye. The blade is going through the eyeball into the brain. Marvel editorial saw it, said no, too violent, too graphic, changed the art before publication. The published version showed Shatterstar's sword hitting Juggernaut's helmet. Impact, no eye stabbing. But Liefeld talked about it in interviews, showed the original art at conventions. It became legendary. The panel Marvel censored. Proof that even in the extreme 90s, there were lines you couldn't cross. The censored panel circulated online for years. Fans debated whether Marvel made the right call. Most agreed, yeah, stabbing someone's eye out was probably too much for a Comics Code-approved book. At least Marvel caught that one, unlike everything else on this list. Our final moment proves that sometimes the worst creative decisions happen when everyone's too busy putting out other fires. 8. The Crossing, Iron Man's character assassination. 1995 was chaos at Marvel. The company was near bankruptcy. The editorial was scattered. Storylines contradicted each other. Nobody was minding the store. Avengers. The Crossing happened during this mess. Avengers 390, 3095, Age of Innocence, and several crossover issues told one story. Tony Stark was evil, had been for years, working for time-traveling villain Kang the Conqueror, killing people, manipulating the Avengers, playing both sides. ForceWorks 16, October 1995, revealed the twist. Tony was a sleeper agent. Kang had corrupted him decades ago. Everything Tony did, every heroic act, was part of a long con. The Avengers were horrified. Their teammate and friend was a murderer, a traitor. Iron Man tried to kill them. The solution: travel back in time, recruit teenage Tony Stark, bring young Tony to the present, have him fight his corrupted future self. Adult Tony died. Teen Tony became the new Iron Man. Fans hated everything about it. Tony's decades of heroism are retroactively tainted. His character was assassinated for shock value, replaced by a teenage version nobody wanted. Within a year, Marvel started walking it back. Avengers Timeslide, February 1996, introduced retcons. Avengers Forever Stupple 1-2F, December 1998, February 2000, explained that Kang had manipulated events differently than shown. Teen Tony was phased out. Adult Tony returned. The entire Crossing storyline was quietly ignored, treated as a bad dream. Editors tacitly admitted it never should have happened, but it did happen. Iron Man, one of Marvel's flagship heroes, was turned into a murderous traitor and replaced with a teenager because nobody stopped to think if this was a good idea. The pattern is the same. Nobody said no. Writers pitched controversial ideas. Editors approved them. Publishers released them. Only after readers revolted did anyone ask whether these stories should have been told. If this opened your eyes to Marvel's most controversial mistakes, hit like, subscribe, and tell us which moment shocked you most. Check out our video on DC's most controversial moments next.